Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the Hebrew Woman Show. I'm your host, Renaissance Woman, aka Ren Judah, and it's the Sabbath. I have been resting all day. I've enjoyed my Sabbath. I hope you've done the same. Feeling a little bit under the weather here, so bear with me. We're going to pick back up on our Maxwell series. We're going to go to the law number 7, the law of respect. And I was just sitting here listening to the law, the previous law, and you know, I was just thinking about the law of trust, and when you're managing teams or just yourself, the law of solid ground was a is I would say go back and review it. And for those of you who don't have the books and you're just listening, I would say this book is. I saw it on YouTube. I don't know if it's still here, but if you have a premium account, it's easier to listen to the books because you don't have to do all those commercials. But I strongly recommend if you don't have, go to the library and check it out. It's worth going back, taking your time and going back through these laws and reading the books because I've learned so much about leadership over this last year. It's just really been amazing. And going through the leadership programs that I went through, I did too. And really, the law process makes complete sense. And that makes me want to go back and start all over. And that is what I'm going to do with these laws and do the workbook with them because I really get it. It is a compound effect. Leadership isn't built in a day, and it is a process. And you just have to keep compounding. I am now creating my own leadership program. I'm building my own plan around my goals, my desires, and my leadership at work. So, you really want to be more intentional with it, even with your family. The power of intention, that's real. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it because I can't wait to get into this next law. We are here to explore our biblical principles. That's the whole point of this channel. The reason why I chose the John Maxwell books is because these whole 21 laws are spiritually based. I can actually pull several scriptures for many of these laws. And what I want us to do, and for those of you, I would definitely go to thriftbooks.com and buy some of these books because I think, especially if you are in leadership, particularly if you have a family, they're worth having and going back. But there's a daily reader, and there's also a 21 minutes of leadership that you can do, and it goes through the irrefutable laws of leadership and has like thoughts for the day and exercises, and just you'll do one exercise because it's not meant for you to go through the whole book. You just do one exercise every day. So it's the 21 most powerful moments of a in a leader's day, and so I've been adding that to this. Like I said, it's a compound effect. So, and it forces me to take time because what I do is I set aside time to pray, meditate, do the reading, and then write my thoughts on what I've processed. So, try that out. If you guys are interested, I'm still working on trying to get my schedule together. And once I do that, I will solidify where we're going to hold our room, our support group, where you can talk about your leadership experiences. If you're navigating a toxic work environment, you can come and talk about that and get some wise counsel from the people who are there. Um, the purpose of doing all this is so that we can follow 2 Corinthians 13 and 5. Examine yourselves, whether you be of the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how Christ is in you, except ye be reprobate. And so, what I like about it, and I've started working on it, and I'm going to share this with you. But I want to give you this idea now that, for example, with these 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, I can go just to show you spiritual principles compound each other. And in the previous chapter, he had mentioned the Serenity Prayer and how a lot of 12-step programs utilize them. So just looking at the 12 steps of the programs, I can find you the biblical in scriptures to match any of these systems, even in Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths. I can show you it in the Bible. Spiritual principles compound each other. So for me, looking at these other materials, reading these other materials, it is just I'm pulling gems from so many different systems, and so that is my project that I'm doing right now. I am navigating some of the most popular systems used in the world, in the country right now. 12-step programs. Uh, we're doing Maxwell's leadership program, and even the leadership programs that I just went through. It is amazing to me how all these systems, even when people want to be secular, they are. I can define you the spiritual principle to match it, and the reason why is because we can do nothing without God. And even for people who try to be worldly, they still can't even build their programs without deferring to spiritual principles. It's amazing. So will be excited as I work on that project, and I'll be sharing that with you all. So exciting. So we strive. I am striving to be a woman of Titus, and I hope you are as well, because Titus says that we are to speak things which become sound doctrine. And what I love about Titus too, because it's for people who, as I watch on the internet, and I've been in spaces, curated spaces where the conversation revolved around relationships. It's always a battle of the sexes. But see, the thing about the Bible, what I love about the Bible is this is not a battle of the sexes. The laws, the scriptures, Torah, it is for men and women. Because you always hear, well, what about the men? And I hear women say, the Bible beats up on women. It doesn't. You just don't read it. But Titus is a great example because you can see it starts with the men. And to go back to our Maxwell reference, all things hinge on leadership. And there is no leadership without order. And the Bible has no order. The Bible says that it is God, man, woman, child. That is the order. And so he starts with the men. And it says that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, and in patience, that the aged women likewise. So that means you need to embody those same characteristics, that the aged women be in behavior that becometh holiness. So those attributes that were just called off become holiness, okay? That we're not false accusers, not giving too much wine, teachers of good things. That's what I strive to do, be a teacher of good things. That they may teach the younger women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children. We want to teach love. And what does that look like? It looks like keeping the commandments, because if I'm keeping the commandments, I'm not doing anything to you that I don't want done to me. Loving my brother as myself. That's what it embodies. To be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, that the word of God not be blasphemed. While we are obedient to our husbands, so hopefully you haven't chosen a head that is going to misguide or mislead you. Because if you have, your house is going to have what? Chaos. There is no leadership in chaos. And so, if we believe in the order, the divine order, God, man, woman, child, then we know that our adherence to Torah and our deference to our husbands is behavior that becomes holiness. And this is so that the word of God not be blasphemed, okay? We train ourselves to think biblically, not emotionally, because a lot of times, particularly at work, and I would say everywhere, I'm not even going to just say at work, when we are overwrought and given to our emotions, we tend to not think rationally. And we engage in behavior that kind of lands us in trouble. Proverbs 11 and 14 says, where no counselor is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So the whole purpose of this scripture, the reason why it's read every show, this is our intro, because we need to remember these things. I need to remember these things. So I remind myself daily when I don't want to listen to other people, and not just anybody. I'm not telling you, because what we're going to hit it in a minute when we go to John. Right? But Proverbs 19 and 20 says, here counsel, receive instruction, that thou may be wise in thy latter end. We need instruction. We need wise counsel. And I had to hurry up and get over here. Let me get to this. Proverbs 28:26. He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool. Whoso walk wisely shall be delivered. So you need to have people around you you can trust. Because this is where I was rushing off to 1 John 4:1. So seeking wise counsel is not for you to just believe anything everybody tells you. Because there does come a time, particularly as you move out into the world, where you learn that your trust is broken. That freshness of innocence and naivety as you deal with people, it can get jaded. And we just need to understand that it's because we need to walk by faith, not by sight. We need to surround ourselves with wise counsel. We need to be watchful so that we can also be ready. And the purpose and my whole point is that when you surround yourself with wise people, you'll go to them and you'll talk about these situations and they'll help you navigate them. Also, one thing I realized in every program that I've been in, that I'm looking at and examining, there's always the writing tool. I hate to do it. And the crazy part is I'm a journaler, but I really just want to write when I want to write. But now, setting aside time to daily do a meditation and writing session forces me to get what's up here in my head out, because you sometimes you think you know what you're thinking, but you really don't really dive into the heart of the matter until you get to writing. Those words get to flowing, or if you speak, if you want to do listen, there are so many ways to journal. You can do talk to text, but the whole point is that you sit down and with you'll be how much you can write in 10 minutes. Get these thoughts out so you can follow that train of thought all the way to the end. And it will help release that anger and that tension so that you don't go places and find yourself reacting emotionally rather than biblically, okay? And the 1 John 4:1, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world. The purpose of that is to say, hey, you don't believe everything everybody says to you. And that goes for no matter where they are, what their job title is, what their position is, what they were elected to. Because we know now, we watch it in media every day. We watch a politician fall. We watch a leader fall because they're not honest. And that goes right back to these laws, right? And so when you talk about the law of trust, you can't trust people who are double minded and they have agendas. And the only way you're going to know that is if you try the spirit. And that goes for even people. And also, not to put your faith in man because he'll fail you every time. And all these systems that I'm looking at, for example, the support system of a 12-step program tells you to get a sponsor. Well, if you hinge your belief in following the steps on to the sponsor, what do you do when a sponsor falls? The sponsor just took the place of the modern day pastor, where you see a lot of Christians in the church. When the pastor falls, the congregation falls, because your faith was built in this man instead of on God. So these people who are your advisors, your helpers, they are not for you to replace God with. These are assists. These are to help. These are tools. And so all of that, like when I look at Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, like I always say that I feel like in our faith that we really dropped the ball in teaching prayer and meditation, and then to look at Buddhism and see them actually teach people how to practice. I kind of take issue with that. It's like, how do people who are the foundation of all this let two of our major tools be set aside? You can tell people go pray, go meditate, but if they don't know how to do you can tell them. It's like saying go build a house and you've never learned how to do any type of taking any type of carpentry. You don't even know how to use a tape measure. So how are you going to go build something, right? It is the same way with your leadership program. If you've never seen good leadership, if you've never practiced it, you don't know how to build it. And so that is why it is important for you, just me, to go through the process of reading books like this. And I would say anybody, after going through leadership programs myself, go through the leadership programs. They are life changing. And I will tell you, especially when you go through one that has the Clifton Strengths and it has the EQI leadership reports that they do with you will learn so much about yourself, so that and you'll also catch yourself when you're tripping. Because here's the other thing, don't set yourself up or put yourself on a pedestal to where you think you're going to do this walk perfectly, because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to fall. But if you surround yourself with wise counsel, they should be able to help you get up. And so, what does that council look like? What does your personal board of directors look like? They should look like people who have what you want and who are already doing what you want to do. If that is holy living, sober living, financially stable and astute, whatever it is, you need to seek that, so that you can see it in action and learn how to apply it. Okay. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. You want to be around people who are going to make you better. You want to be around people who are going to make you grow, and that includes your spouse. My husband makes me want to be a better woman. That's the type of person that you want to have around you. These are the type of people who you want to build your life with. You have to be with somebody that is going to sharpen you, because otherwise, for me, what is the point? Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law is happy. So not only are we going to keep the law, but we have a vision. We have a plan for what we want our future to look like, for where we want to go. And if you have not done it, it is time for you to sit down with pen and paper, start journaling, and get to the heart of the matter and see what's holding you back. There is some type of mental blockage that you have that is keeping you from perfection, from perfecting your goals. And you have to, 2 Corinthians 13:5, examine yourself and see where you are. So, we go into our leadership because, hey, your grind is not your gospel. If you're working a job, whatever your job it is, that's not your gospel. Whatever you're doing out here, that is not what you're building your system on. Our system is built on faith in the Most High God. So, now let me add our book, and let's just go right into listening to law number 7.
Leadership law number 7, the law of respect. People naturally follow better leaders than themselves. If you had seen her, your first reaction might not have been respect. She wasn't a very impressive-looking person at all, just a little over 5 feet tall in her late 30s with dark brown, weathered skin. She couldn't read or write. The clothes she wore were coarse and worn. When she smiled, it revealed that her top 2 front teeth were missing. She lived alone. The story was that she had abandoned her husband when she was 29. She gave him no warning. One day he woke up and she was gone. Her employment was erratic, and most of the time she took domestic jobs in small hotels, scrubbing floors, making up rooms, and cooking. Just about every spring and fall, she would disappear from her place of employment, come back broke, and work again to scrape together funds. When she was present on the job, she worked hard and seemed physically tough, but she was known to suddenly fall asleep, sometimes in the middle of a conversation. She attributed her affliction to a blow to the head that she had taken during a teenage fight. Who would respect someone like that? The more than 300 slaves who followed her to freedom out of the South. They recognized and respected her leadership, and so did just about every abolitionist in New England. The year was 1857. The woman's name was Harriet Tubman. While she was only in her 30s, Harriet Tubman came to be called Moses because of her ability to go into the land of captivity and bring back so many people out of slavery's bondage. Tubman started life as a slave. Born in 1820, she grew up in the farmland of Maryland. When she was 13, she received the blow to her head that troubled her all of her life. A white overseer in a store demanded her assistance so that he could beat an escaping slave. When she refused and blocked his way, the white man threw a 2-pound weight that hit Tubman in the head. She nearly died, and her recovery took months. At age 24, she married John Tubman, a free black man. But when she talked to him about escaping to freedom in the North, he wouldn't hear of it. He said if she tried to leave, he'd turn her in. When she resolved to take her chances and go north in 1849, she did so alone, without a word to him. Her first biographer, Sarah Bradford, said that Tubman told her, "I had reasoned this out in my mind, and it was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. And if I could not have one, I would have the other. For no man should take me alive. I should fight for my liberty as my strength lasted." Tubman made her way to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, via the Underground Railroad, a secret network of free blacks, white abolitionists, and Quakers who helped escaping slaves on the run. Though free herself, she vowed to return to Maryland and bring her family out. In 1850, she made her first return trip as an Underground Railroad conductor, someone who retrieved and guided out slaves with the assistance of sympathizers along the way. Each summer and winter, Tubman worked to make return trips to the South. Every spring and fall, she risked her life by going south and returning with more people. She was fearless, and her leadership was unshakable. Hers was extremely dangerous work, and when people in her charge wavered or had second thoughts, she was strong as steel. Tubman knew escaped slaves who returned would be beaten and tortured until they gave information about those who had helped them. So she never allowed any people she guided to give up. "Dead folks tell no tales," she would tell a faint-hearted slave as she put a loaded pistol to his head. "You go on or die." Between 1850 and 1860, Harriet Tubman guided out more than 300 people, including many of her family members. She made 19 trips in all and was proud of the fact that she never once lost a single person under her care. "I never ran my train off the track," she said, "and I never lost a passenger." At the time, Southern whites put a $12,000 price on her head. Now, that would be around $400,000 today. By the start of the Civil War, she had brought more people out of slavery than any other American in history, black or white, male or female. Tubman's reputation and influence commanded respect, and not just among slaves who dreamed of gaining freedom. Influential Northerners of both races sought her out. She spoke at rallies and in homes throughout Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Boston, Massachusetts, St. Catharines in Canada, and Auburn, New York, where she eventually settled. People of prominence sought her out, such as Senator William Seward, who later became Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, and outspoken abolitionist and former slave Frederick Douglass. Tubman's advice and leadership were also requested by John Brown, the famed revolutionary abolitionist. Brown always referred to the former slave as General Tubman, and he was quoted as saying she was a better officer than most whom he had seen and could command an army as successfully as she had led her small parties of fugitives. That is the essence of the law of respect. Harriet Tubman would appear to be an unlikely candidate for leadership because the deck was certainly stacked against her. She was uneducated. She began life as a slave. She lived in a culture that didn't respect black people. And she labored in a country where women didn't have the right to vote. Despite her circumstances, she became an incredible leader. The reason is simple. People naturally follow better leaders than themselves. Everyone who came in contact with her recognized her strong leadership ability and felt compelled to follow her. That's how the law of respect works. People don't follow others by accident. They follow individuals whose leadership they respect. People that are an 8 in leadership, now we're going back to the scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the strongest. People that are an 8 in that leadership, they don't go out and look for a 6 to follow. They naturally want to follow a 9 or a 10. The less skilled follow the more highly skilled and gifted. Occasionally, a strong leader may choose to follow someone less effective than himself, but when that happens, it's for a reason. For example, the better leader may do it out of respect for the person's office or past accomplishments, or he may be following the chain of command. In general, though, followers are attracted to people who are better leaders than themselves. That's the law of respect. When people get together for the first time in a group, take a look at what happens. As they start interacting, the better leaders emerge, and they begin to influence the others. At first, many people may make tentative moves in several different directions, but after the people get to know one another, it doesn't take long for them to recognize the best leaders and to start following them. Usually, the more leadership ability a person has, the more quickly he recognizes leadership or its lack in others. In time, people in the group get on board and follow the strongest leaders. Either that or they leave the group and they pursue their own agenda. What causes one person to respect and follow another? Is it because of the qualities of the leader? Is it due to the interaction between the leader and the follower? Does it occur because of circumstances? I believe all those factors can come into play and more. Based on my observations and personal experience, here are the top 7 ways that leaders gain others' respect. Number 1, natural leadership ability. First and foremost is leadership ability. All leaders are not created equal. Some people are born with greater skills and abilities to lead. However, as I've stated in the law of the lid and the law of process, every person can become a better leader. If you possess natural leadership ability, people will want to follow you. They will want to be around you. They will listen to you. They will become excited when you communicate vision. However, natural leadership ability alone is not enough. If you do not exhibit some of the additional practices and characteristics listed here, you will not reach your leadership capacity and people may not continue to follow you. One of the greatest potential pitfalls for natural leaders is to rely on their talent alone. Number 2, respect for others. The one common characteristic all leaders possess is the ability to see more than others and before others. This gives leaders an advantage. Dictators and other autocratic leaders use this ability to gain power and benefit themselves, and they often rely on violence or intimidation to keep it. Leaders with poor values use this advantage to exploit and manipulate others. In contrast, respect for others sets good leaders apart from the bad ones. Good leaders understand that much of leadership is voluntary, and when leaders show respect for others, especially for people who have less power or a lower position than theirs, they gain respect. As a result, people want to follow them because the more respect they have for someone, the more open they are to their leadership. Gaining respect from others follows this pattern. When people respect you as a person, they admire you. When people respect you as a friend, they love you. When people respect you as a leader, they follow you. If you continually respect others and consistently lead them well, you will continue to have followers. Number 3, difficulties overcome. Respect is gained on difficult ground. Anytime leaders care enough about people to positively confront them, to help them solve a problem, overcome a blind spot, or change a destructive behavior, both of them grow. The leaders grow in the respect that they've earned, and the followers grow because they experience breakthroughs they might otherwise never experience. I've seen this over and over with the corporate clients that I've mentored. When I teach leaders how to have candid conversations tackling difficult subjects with team members, the clients have come back and told us that those were the most valuable skills that they learned. The conversations they had revolutionized their leadership, and they want more mentoring on how to tackle those tough conversations. Number 4, courage. People do not follow titles, they follow courage. One of the reasons everyone respected Harriet Tubman so much was her tremendous courage. She was determined to succeed, or she was going to die trying. She didn't let the danger stop her. Her mission was clear, and she was absolutely fearless. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger remarked, "A leader does not deserve the name unless he is willing occasionally to stand alone. Good leaders do what's right, even at the risk of failure, in the face of great danger, and under a brunt of relentless criticism." I can't think of even one great leader from history who was without courage. Can you? A leader's courage has great value. It gives followers hope. Number 5, success. Success is very attractive. People are naturally drawn to it. It's one reason why people in our society are so focused on celebrities' lives and cheer for their favorite sports team and follow the careers of music stars. Success is even more important when it applies to the people who lead us. People respect others' accomplishments, and it's hard to argue with a good track record. When leaders are successful in their own endeavors, people respect them. And when they succeed in leading the team to victory, then followers believe that they can do it again. As a result, followers follow them because they want to be part of the success in the future. Number 6, loyalty. We live in an era of free agency. The average worker, according to one source, will change occupations 10 times by the time that he reaches the age 36. Professional athletes hop from team to team looking for the best deal, and CEOs negotiate ridiculously high financial packages, but when things go wrong, they bail out as millionaires. In a culture of constant change, turnover, and transition, loyalty is an asset. When leaders stick with the team until the job is done, remain loyal to the organization when the going gets rough, and look out for followers even when it hurts them, followers respect them and their action. Number 7, value added to others. Perhaps the greatest source of respect for a leader comes from his or her dedication to adding value to others. Because I've already discussed this extensively in the law of addition, I probably don't need to say much here, but you can be sure that followers value leaders who add value to them, and their respect for them carries on long after the relationship has ended. If you want to measure how much respect you have as a leader, the first thing you should do is look at who you attract. Dennis A. Peer remarked, "One measure of leadership is the caliber of people who choose to follow you." The second thing you should do is to see how your people respond when you ask them for commitment or change. When leaders are respected, they ask for commitment, and their people sign up and step up. They are ready to take risks, put in long hours, or do whatever is necessary to get the job done. Likewise, when respected leaders ask for change, followers are willing to embrace it. But when leaders who are not respected ask for commitment or change, people doubt, they question, they make excuses, or they just simply walk away. It is very hard for a leader who hasn't earned respect to get other people to follow when it's not easy or convenient. In 1997, college basketball saw the retirement of Dean Smith as the head basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. Smith compiled a remarkable record while leading the Tar Heels and is considered one of the best to coach at any level. In 32 years as head coach at North Carolina, he won a remarkable 879 games. His team recorded 27 consecutive 21 seasons. They won 13 Atlantic Coast Conference titles, played in 11 Final Fours, and won 2 national championships. When Smith retired, even the President of the United States called to honor him. Despite the record and the accolades, the best place to see the law of respect at work in Smith's life is by looking at his former players. They respected him for many reasons. He taught them much about basketball as well as life. He pushed them to achieve academically, with nearly every player earning a degree. He made them winners, and he showed them incredible loyalty and respect. Charlie Scott, who played for Smith and graduated from North Carolina in 1970, advanced to play pro basketball, and he went on to work as marketing director for Champion Products. Concerning his time with Smith, he said, "As one of the first black college athletes in the ACC, I experienced many difficult moments during my time at North Carolina, but Coach Smith was always there for me. On one occasion, as we walked off the court following a game at South Carolina, one of their fans called me a big black baboon. 2 assistants had to hold Coach Smith back from going after the guy. It was the first time I'd ever seen Coach Smith visibly upset, and I was shocked. But more than anything else, I was proud of him." During his time at North Carolina, Smith made quite an impact on his players. A remarkable 49 men went on to play professional basketball. Included in that list are greats such as Bob McAdoo, James Worthy, and Michael Jordan. Not only one of the best players ever to dribble a basketball, but also a fine leader in his own right. When Smith died in 2015, more than 10,000 people attended his memorial service. Even after his death, he was still giving to his players. A few weeks after his death, every letterman who played for him at North Carolina received a $200 check with a note that said, "Enjoy a dinner out. Compliments of Coach Dean Smith." James Jordan, Michael Jordan's father, credited Smith and his leadership for a lot of his son's success. Before a playoff game in Chicago in 1993, the elder Jordan observed, "People underestimate the program that Dean Smith runs. He helped Michael realize his athletic ability and hone it. But more important than that, he built character in Michael that took him through his career. I don't think Michael was privileged to any more teaching than anyone else. He had the personality to go with the teaching, and at Carolina, he was able to blend the two of them together. That's the only way I can look at it, and I think that's what made Michael the player that he became." Michael Jordan understood what it meant to follow a good leader. During the waning years of his career, he was adamant about his desire to play for only one coach, Phil Jackson. It made sense. A leader like Jordan wanted to follow a better leader than himself. That's the law of respect. If you ever become frustrated because people are reluctant to follow you, it very well may be that you are trying to lead people whose leadership is better than yours. That creates a difficult situation because no matter how compelling your vision or how well thought out your plans, if you're a 7 as a leader, 8s, 9s, and 10s aren't likely to follow you. Mathematician Andre Will observed, a first-rate man will try to surround himself with his equals or better if possible. A second-rate man will surround himself with third-rate men. A third-rate man will surround himself with fifth-rate men. That's not necessarily by design or because weaker leaders are insecure. It's because of the law of respect. Like it or not, that's just the way that leadership works. When I was writing this chapter and talking about the law of respect, I found it a little challenging because I don't like to positionally put people over others. And yet it's a reality. And so I had to deal with it in this law that better leaders are followed by people that aren't quite as good in their leadership. It's a way of intuitively knowing who the best leaders are. As I've observed life, it's not title, it's not position, it's not even tenure in an organization that makes a leader effective. When that leader produces, when that leader values people, that leader gets respect. And that's who people want to follow. They want to follow somebody that they can look up to. They want to follow somebody that's a little bit beyond them, a little bit better than they, maybe have taken the journey a little bit longer than they have. I know in my life, the people that I follow the most are people that are better leaders than me. And when I was young, I realized that there were leaders within my congregation and later in my organization that honestly were better leaders than me. And it was a breakthrough moment in my life when I decided that when I found somebody that was more gifted than me in a certain area, instead of me demanding my leadership because I had the title, position, or tenure, I basically went with them and either A, let them lead, or B, asked them to help me and we would work together to lead the others. Here's what I knew. Those that are better leaders should be the leaders. That's the law of respect, and that's how it always works.
So I like that. And that last point, there are particular circumstances where the better leader is not going to be able to lead, right? If you belong to a organization, I can think particularly government, military, you may have a soldier who is a better leader than the sergeant. That doesn't mean the sergeant is going to defer to the private. However, I do think that those things can be negotiated. You can He can ask for support in helping lead the other members of the brigade, right? Same way for you in whatever leadership position you have. And I think that it's important to study this law, to actually go through the book again, to do the exercises. If you don't have the workbook, you can Google law number 7 and go to the Maxwell website and other websites where people are discussing this law and get some support there because the law of trust is important. And if your children don't trust you, it's going to be difficult for you to lead them. If your children don't respect you, it's going to be difficult for you to lead them. If your wife does not respect you, it's difficult. Same way, you don't respect your husband, the leadership falls apart. So it is important to study leadership, and I think that's why it's important to study the Bible because we see examples throughout the Bible. And if you really think about it, there's not a better leadership manual on the planet, right? Because again, this is where all these 21 laws come from the Bible. They're scripturally based, you know. So even like you can just think about if I you think about Saul and David and how Saul's own son deferred to David, and Saul's behavior, his conduct is what made people question and not trust him. And when he broke the commandments and broke from what the Lord told him to do, he received punishment, and that punishment being that David would become king. And rather than responding with grace and self correcting, he kept going until he went downhill. And I found that that is what most people do today when your leadership is compromised, when you are exposed, rather than do the right thing. And I see this has happened to me with someone who was leading me. Rather than course correct and cease in the behavior, they double down and keep going until they self destruct. Don't be Saul. Don't self destruct. Examine yourself. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. I don't think there's anything that needs to be added to it. It was a great lesson. And there were a lot of things to think about. The idea, too, with Harriet Tubman, the things that were stacked against her, uneducated, born a slave, you know, she didn't have any money. She was poor. She was a woman in a country that not only had slaves but didn't respect women. Women were just as much property to their husbands as their chattel as well. So that that is something to think about, how she showed up a more powerful leader than Freeman. And sometimes that'll be you in a place of employment or somewhere, and sometimes even in your family. People don't respect you because we focus so much on the outer cup that by the time the leader shows up, they've already blown you out of the water because you were already there with your preconceived notions. And so that's something else too to examine. The Harriet Tubman story is a great example of what happens when you judge a person by appearances. When you're focused on the outer cup, you will miss a lot. So it goes back to my point earlier about you being watchful. Stop assuming things about people based on appearances, and what you think, your assumptions of who and what they are, because they may not have the political, societal, or monetary cachet that you believe is necessary, or even educational assets that you, because she was, again, she couldn't even read, and she was underestimated every step of the way. Who are you underestimating today? Shabbat Shalom. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. See you next week. As a matter of fact, you probably see me sometime this week if things go well. I'm going to work on adding some more days for you guys. Shalom.